Good morning. I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News, coming to you from our digital desk. And we want to talk gas prices. Maybe you had to fill up on the way into work today. And we do a lot of these kinds of stories when the prices are high. So we also like to do them when we see such a sharp decline in gas prices to get an understanding of exactly what's going on. And there are a couple of things at play. Let's bring in the lead petroleum analyst with Gas Buddy. We work with Patrick DeHaan quite a few times throughout the year. Patrick, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Dan. Good to be with you.
Hey, it's always good to have you on when prices are dropping. In fact, Ohio saw the largest single week drop in the country, 18 cents when looking at last week to this week. What's going on?
Yeah, we see Ohio at the top of the list when it comes to volatility, both when prices cycle up and when prices plunge. And thankfully, we're on the receiving end for now. As you mentioned, Ohio's gas prices seeing the largest weekly decrease of any state, falling an average of 18 cents a gallon. Gas prices in Cleveland now average $2.80. That's 36 cents below a year ago. A lot of this because of the decline in wholesale gasoline prices. Americans aren't driving as much as temperatures start to get a little cooler. In addition, we have made the transition back to cheaper winter gasoline. And late last week, oil prices plummeting below $60 a barrel on concern that there could be a new trade war between the U.S. and China after President Trump announced the possibility of new tariffs. That pushed oil down, and all of that is helping to facilitate some of the lower gas prices. But before we get too excited, keep in mind Ohio is a market that engages in price cycling that is very aggressive lowering of prices. We could eventually see a price cycle back up to say 289 a gallon in the next call it week or so, maybe even early this week. We're just seeing Michigan and Indiana do that. So be mindful if you on low on gasoline. If you're below a quarter tank, it may be a good idea to fill up, especially at some of the stations that are below 250 a gallon.
Talk to us, and we like to remind people what price cycling is. It infuriates drivers when in a day or two period you'll see what was a decent price in gas and then bang, 20, 30 cents up. It's a competition thing. It's, as you call it, a cycling. Explain price cycling for us.
Yeah, Dan, what cycling is every station's very aggressive in Ohio with lowering prices, but you can only lower so far before you're selling at or below your cost, and no business is sustainable, losing money or even breaking even. And that's when gas stations, when prices have gotten a little bit too low, that's when gas stations then reset prices to maybe a place where they should have been at all along the whole time. And this happens every week or two in the summer, every 2 to 3 weeks in the fall, where stations aggressively lower prices. And that's what we've seen. That's why Ohio is at the top of the list for biggest decreases. Competition has lowered prices aggressively and almost beyond where they can be profitable. And that's what causes them prices to kind of reset back to maybe 289 a gallon or so at some point this week.
And then the other thing I want you to explain for us is cheaper winter gas. What does that even mean?
Yeah, Dan, in the fall months after September 15 rolls around, the EPA relaxes their requirements for summer gasoline. Essentially, then refiners move to producing something that's more common and easier to produce with cheaper components. And so the EPA is not regulating air quality in the same way it does when temperatures are beyond 80 or 90 degrees. And so this formulation of gasoline is cheaper. You may notice a slight decrease in fuel efficiency, but all of that to say that wholesale gas prices in the winter using this cheaper blend, stations pass along the decrease in cost associated with it. So winter gasoline, less stringent, cheaper to produce, more common, and that reduces the price you pay.
Well, that definitely helps. Every cent helps. Patrick DeHaan with Gas Buddy. Gas Buddy is an incredible price tracking website. If you're ever traveling or even just in your neighborhood, you get on gasbuddy.com. You can see where the cheapest gas in your area is. That's always helpful. Sometimes it can be 15, 20 cents cheaper if you just go a mile down the road. Nothing wrong with that. Patrick, we're going to give you the final word here. The national average could go below $3 a gallon. We're looking at trends we haven't seen since COVID.
Yeah, exactly right. And, to that mark, you're talking about saving. Keep in mind that the average in Ohio today, about 278 a gallon. We are tracking the cheapest station in Ohio today at $2.18. Yeah, that's not a misprint. 218 a gallon. So be sure to fire up an app like Gaspity or Google Maps. But Dan, it's not impossible that over the next weeks or months, we could even see a station or two in Ohio below that $2 a gallon mark.
Wow, that would be something. That would be, you'd have a line there. That would be for sure. Patrick Don with Gas Buddy, we certainly appreciate the time and your expertise every time we have you on. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, take care. That's going to wrap it up again. We do stories when gas prices shoot up, and you want to know why. It's only fair that we do gas prices when they stumble or tumble, and you'd like to know why. Our 11 o'clock news just 5 minutes away on Cleveland's 43, then our noon news on Channel 19. Until then, I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News. Have a great afternoon.